So I woke up this morning and I I sent out some messages. I was thinking about the video I did last night about the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing. And I could sum it up better than what I did. I mean, I guess whenever I do longer videos, sometimes I get off track and then I start going into the weeds. And I was like, nah, I could definitely distill this down better. I sent Cap a message and I sent somebody else a message. And I was like, there's got to be a more concise way of saying this, about the whole Second Amendment. And what I see black people, because I mean, like I said, MSNBC, CNN, all these scholarly black women that you see on the news and whatnot. Um, they are all in these, liberal enclaves, liberal cities, right? And in liberal cities, you have Democrats who are, the majority of the politics there, and they get voted in by black people. And so it seems to me that what black people are upset about is or what they're doing is they're literally trying to import New York laws into Wisconsin. And there's also seemingly a little bit of I don't want to call it jealousy, but and Kat put it the best way. It's like black people, we look at ourselves like, we're oppressed and we're denied access to firearms, for example, especially in cities like New York. Right? You can't just go down to the police station, hey, I want to get my concealed carry license and go from there. Hey, I want to get an AR-15. You can't, they're banned in New York. Assault weapons ban. I think they even banned the the other category of firearm, which is neither a rifle or a shotgun. But you got the whole thing with the brace, and then it's 12.5-inch barrel. So it has to have a vertical pistol grip on it, right? That's the way a lot of these people, have been getting around that, around the assault weapons ban, right? Still works the same way, but that's how they get around the assault weapons ban, right? But New York, passed laws to ban that, right? So to me, there's a little bit of jealousy where black people are kind of upset that they can't forget it being Kyle Rittenhouse. You look at conservative states and they are upset that they can't do that. And there's no cultural orientation in being able to do that. Like, open carry, like New York City, what? Concealed carry, what? New York City, you got a loaded firearm. They always kill me with that. Like when you carry a firearm, you always carry one in the chamber. And they always got to throw in when they're writing their liberal news articles. It was a dangerous loaded firearm. They're supposed to be loaded. Go watch Active Self Protection and watch a video where somebody has another, something in their hand and then they have to pull out and draw, like if they're getting carjacked and they only got one hand to do it with, which is why, a handgun is more feasible for self-defense. But I'm saying, yeah, you can't rack the slide if you are holding something else. What if you're holding a child? But anyway, um, it's like black people are just incensed by that idea. And then, Cap made a really beautiful point about it. He just said, it's like, you know, since we're so used to as black people, again, some of it is like has to do with the way that we vote. But because we vote Democrat and the Democrats are not, they're not pro black. They're anti-gun. So we vote them in. They say we can't have guns. Then there's been the historical context of black people being denied their Second Amendment rights. So, and then there's all the other forms of discrimination, job discrimination, and housing discrimination, and being denied access to upward mobility and things like that, right? So black people, we we feel the effects of being oppressed. And so what a lot of us look at it as is, well, we're fucked up and we're oppressed. And so the best way to deal with white supremacy and all this is we need to all be oppressed together. We need to be oppressed together. Like black people, we don't fight for freedom. Even though we talk about freedom, we don't fight for freedom. To me, it makes no sense to be an ex-slave population and not support the Second Amendment if you don't trust the government, you don't trust the white man, you don't trust the system, you don't trust the police. But yet, black people will sit up there and then they'll vote Democrat. Democrats will pass gun control laws. Those gun control laws will be heavily enforced against the black community. And then they'll see a situation like Kyle Rittenhouse, or they'll see a situation like other white people elsewhere who do exercise their Second Amendment rights in their conservative states. And then black people are just incensed. Wow, how come he can do that? I can't do that. Well, you can't do that, not just because of racism and white supremacy and the historical context of that, but you keep voting for the very politicians that make sure that you can't do the same thing. And see that to me is what I would consider a slave mindset. So in other words, you instead of fighting for freedom as black people fight for socialistic oppression. You know, everybody should be oppressed as we are. That's how black people, and that is such a fucked up mentality. Everybody should be oppressed. If we can't do it, they can't do it either. You know what I mean? And then the white people, they run around, fuck that shit, nigger. like, like they're like, hell no. They're like, hey, you can feel how you want to feel about some shit, but you're not taking away my freedoms. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Right? That's white people. Give me liberty or give me death. The tree of liberty must be refreshed with the blood of patriots and tyrants. Right? That's white people. Black people, oh, he's got a gun. I can't have a gun. He shouldn't have one either. And it's like, why don't you? And this is a mentality that I've never understood. This mentality, as somebody who grew up in the Northeast, this is a mentality that permeates the Northeast. And there's a lot of, especially old black people, who feel this way. Old black people are the worst. They're the worst. Because remember, the whole concept of carrying a firearm on your person, it's never existed in the Northeast, and then it only came into being, in 1986 because of the Luby Cafe down in Texas and the mass shooter who went in there and shot the place up. And then you had that woman that went before Congress and was like, I left my gun in the car and my parents were killed right in front of me because, I was trying to follow the law and I wasn't able to carry it on my person into, Luby's Cafe. Right? Go pull it up. Go type in Luby's Cafe shooting and everything. I think that's what it's called, Luby's Cafe. Right? That was the beginning of concealed carry. Texas was like boom, and then like it kind of trickled down into other states and whatnot. And ever since then, crime has been going down. Now the left wants to jump up and be like, more guns, more crime, more guns, more crime. They're conflating, trying to, throw up this, correlation, causation situation with the current, rise in crime. And it's like, we literally just got through and we're still kind of in a global pandemic. People who were in poverty, prostrate on the ground, okay, they didn't have any savings. They didn't have anything. They were living paycheck to paycheck or welfare check to welfare check, if that. So as I predicted, last January, I said crime is going to go up. I did that video, that like post-apocalyptic video. I had a picture of that scene where you had the cannibals, coming out the tunnel in the cannibals coming out the tunnel in the movie The Road. That was the thumbnail. Right? If you've never seen The Road, you should go and watch The Road. Very interesting, apocalyptic, movie. But I talked about that. I said, anytime you have destabilization of the flow of money, the people who are closest to the bottom, they are going to be the people who are most likely going to resort to violent crime. Plain and simple. And both the left and the right get that crap wrong. They want white the right wants to say, oh, it's because we took Jesus out of the schools. It's like, for real, like that's why you see the rise in crime. or they try to make it, a racial thing. Go read the comment sections. It's funny how people say, the Fox News is not racist, and the the right is not racist, but then you go into the comment sections and there's nothing but racist in the comment sections. He didn't do nothing. Look at the joggers, you know. We're out here stealing TVs every day. Look where he is, James, and then they bust out laughing. You know what I mean? Like they just constantly, Black Lives Matter. Shit has nothing to do with Black Lives. Black Lives Matter. Like that. Like again, if Fox News isn't racist, it sure does. Bring a lot of racists into its comment section, and again, they don't check it. None of these places check it. Then you got the other people that just like to troll, just basic news articles, commenting on, inner city crime. And they're like, black perpetrator, I must write a comment. You go to another video, white perpetrator, what I mean? The comments are lightweight or virtually non-existent. I'm like, nah, man, keep the same energy, fam. Keep the same energy. Nope, they don't want to keep the same energy. So, that doesn't help in terms of having, the race discussions. But I just have to point out, like, black people got to rethink the way that they look at shit. And I've already talked about how they make black women the spear tip of, I mean they're like the freaking Democrats, like sick dogs, man. Like they don't even think for themselves. Like they just go up there and they regurgitate shit, just like that sister that was up there on whatever news, I think it was CBS or some shit like that. She's up there talking about the AR-15 is a shotgun. I'm like, bitch, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. They just up there just parroting, shit. And that's why, I called that out before with all these phrases, sensible gun laws, reasonable gun control, universal background checks. You know what I mean? They keep using the same phraseology. And I keep trying to tell black people it's because what black people think is a black agenda is not a black agenda. Just because the Democrats are smart, they go up there and they put a bunch of black faces up there, and black people stupidly think that suddenly black people are in positions of power. I'm like, you all are idiots. And the people that are the most susceptible to that are black women. You give black women got such an inferiority complex. You give black women, a shiny desk, with their name plaque on it. Oh, they lose their minds. They go into the moon and back. They killing it and everything else, and they will do your bidding. You give them a little bit of status. This is the whole downside of being black and being at the socioeconomically, politically at the bottom, because, we just, it's like, again, white supremacy just comes through, and or the left arm of white supremacy, not the right arm, but, they'll come through, give black people a little bit of shine, a little bit of status, and, we're good. We've made it. That's what we'll say to ourselves. And then we'll go up there and step and fetch and kowtow and tap dance and do a little soft shoe and, all that, get the butter biscuits. That's what it is. I haven't heard any black person go up on national television and say anything that even remotely sounds like it's a pro-black agenda, black people first, other than Grandmaster Jay. Everybody else, what I mean, is, a shill. Everybody else is on the coon train. So, these are the problems that we have to face. And again, another issue is the fact that, the other black people, they act like they don't see it. Black men are the spear tips of seeing the shit. You know what I mean? Again, we got the gender war, which, in my opinion, is only exacerbated by white supremacy. But we got the gender war, and they drive the wedge, and again, we're going to uplift one and not uplift the other, and then they do the reverse when it comes to sexual desirability. We're going to uplift the black man, and we're going to put down the black woman. You know what I mean? So you end up with black women that end up feeling some type of way because, they get attention in one direction, but they don't get attention in another direction, you know? So you end up with the black women are the breadwinners and the backbone and the rock and the foundation, but they get none of the beauty, which is what women actually want. And then the men, they make the men, oh, we're going to disenfranchise you and all y'all are broken, dusty, and you ain't got no money, but we're going to make you sex gods and sex objects and more desirable than your own women. And we're going to promote interracial dating so that your women feel some type of way and, all that crap. So, there's a lot of forces that black people as a collective, we aren't sharp enough to recognize. The Second Amendment and all that, that's just one component. But that never made sense to me. I'm like, how you going? Okay, the cops is killing us. Okay, so why don't you support the Second Amendment? I mean, you got white people out here that don't really trust the police. Like I told you, they support cops and law enforcement to keep the niggas in check. As long as they keep the niggas in check, blue lives matter. But then start talking about confiscating white people's gun from my cold dead hands, copper. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, whoa. I mean, I thought it was Blue Lives Matter. You know what I mean? It's not Blue Lives Matter when they storm in the Capitol, you know? And then again, you got the racial component. It's not Blue Lives Matter when Ashley Babbitt gets shot in the neck. She was a true patriot, right? But since it was a black cop, he needs to hang from the highest tree. I'm like, for real, it ain't Blue Lives Matter then. You know what I mean? So a lot of this shit is fucking conditional. And after a while, you start to see the patterns of it. You start to recognize, the patterns of how people politically align themselves, and it's based on race. And I do think that when it comes to a lot of this, even just the whole way the Kyle Rittenhouse situation went down. You know what I mean? Did y'all notice like the pandering? You know what I mean? Just like like the race pandering on both sides. You know what I mean? Like I'm sitting there looking at the shit objectively, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think Kyle should have had that gun. I don't think he should have been there. Period. The boy is fucking 17. Whether he brought the gun from out of state or whatever, his dad lives in freaking Kenosha, but his dad's like an alcoholic. He spent most of his time with his mother, his struggling single mom, because his dad was on drugs and shit. You know what I mean? And then Dominique gives him the gun, and then they go and, try to represent a show of force. But I'm like, he's 17, he shouldn't be there. But again, Wisconsin law is slightly different. It wouldn't have been a felony anyway, so whatever. Right. But it's like all the white people, Fox News, they turn it into some exonerating this precious white child, you know, um, and then the left goes and turns it into white people, they can get away with anything. And I like, another thing is just like, yeah, I get that based on, as I always say, white people's track record. You know what I mean? The court, the justice system of you know the white America, and how it's always historically been. So black people are trying to somehow get retribution for wrongs of the past and even current wrongs, right? But they're trying to they put it all together, put it in a box, put a big bow on it, call it white supremacy and say, we want retribution for this. And so we're going to again ignore the facts, and we're going to ignore the objectivity, and we're going to say that he's a white supremacist and all this other shit, which I'm saying he may or might not be. I don't, what I'm saying? But the fact of the matter is I'm like, dude was being chased. You see it in the video, and I'm like, chasing a dude with a rifle, not the smartest thing to do in the world. So I'm like, this isn't going to end well. So, what happened, is what happened. But I'm just saying, you got the media just trumping it up. I'm listening to like MSNBC, and I'm like, okay, where is the valid argument here? And I don't see it. I don't see it. And then you go over to the right, and then I'm listening to them, and I'm like, oh, so we're advocating for 17-year-olds to open carry now, self defense for real, like to me, that's like the biggest piece of like Kyle being wrong. So the whole not guilty on all charges, that is suspect to me. Because I'm like, nah, dude, you shouldn't even have been there. But the way that black people are going to look at it, they're going to look at it like, this is telling, white America that it gives, white supremacists, free license to go out there and shoot black people and protesters that are fighting for racial, fighting against racial injustices, right? That's how they're going to look at it. And, me, I'm not a pacifist with it. I'm like, at least if you're going to talk about challenging the position, at least put yourself in a position to actually challenge some shit if some shit were to go down. So I take the opposite approach. You know what I mean? I take the guerrilla mainframe approach. I take the NFAC approach about black people arming themselves. Which again, as somebody who, grew up in the Northeast, grew up in majority, blue states, what I mean? I can tell you that it's like black people keep voting for, the party that denies them the ability to do exactly what they're bitching about when they see, like situations like the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. And it makes no sense. And then the left, like I said, they go up there and they talk about like, oh, they got guns, the black criminals in the inner city, and look at the violence. And so what we have to do is we have to make more laws. In every election cycle, they go up there and talk about how they got to create more laws to deny more black people access to firearms, and all the old black people, they go for it. All the black women, they go for it. And then next thing you know, not only are you victims to, uh, uh, racism and white supremacy, you're also victims to the black people in your own community. And so you sit there, with no real firepower, feeling defenseless. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, if the Bible was all that powerful, if the Quran was all that powerful, the system of white supremacy would make sure that we don't have it. I pay attention to what they deny us, not what they allow us to have access to. They allow us to have access to religion. They do not allow us to have access to, capital, vehicles of wealth generation, economic opportunities, and firepower. That's what we're denied. So that's where the power is. And black people talk about black empowerment, but they want to somehow overlook that. I've had the same argument with feminists, where feminists are like, oh, men are potential rapists, rape and pillage. And then it's like, okay, so why don't you get a firearm to protect yourself? Oh, I don't believe in guns. But you're running around screaming about how men violate women and how women are unprotected, and men are bigger than women, and how we need to create more laws and Violence Against Women Act, but you won't take it upon yourself to defend yourself from the very threat that you just identified. Whether I agree or disagree, I'm saying you identified it. What are you going to do about it? And then again, liberal states. They had a woman in New Jersey who was killed. White woman. She was killed by her white stalker boyfriend. Her name was Carol Bound. Her husband, died in a motorcycle accident. And then she started dating his friend. It's crazy because his friend, his friend looked like? His friend looked like that dude um that Brad Pitt's character in Troy killed. You know what I mean? Is there no one else? Is there no one else? Go ahead, look up Carol Bound, New Jersey. Is there no one else? The dude looks just like that, right? He looks just like that actor, right? The not Brad Pitt. He looks like the big bald white guy that Brad Pitt killed when he was saying, "Is there no one else?" But anyway, so she out here, dating Stone Cold Steve Austin looking dude. And, he was stalking her. She got a bunch of cameras. She went to the police department. And in Jersey, you got to get this FOID card. And then you got to go through all this bullshit and everything. Granted, like, even if she got the gun, which she didn't get because she didn't cross her T's and dot her I's, and the state troopers just sat on it, even if she got her handgun, it wouldn't have been of any real service to her unless dude came, to the house and she was in the house and then tried to attack her in the house. Well, anyway, she came home. Obviously, she didn't have her gun yet because they didn't issue it to her yet because of all the liberal red tape that Amazing Lucas was up there saying, yes, we need more of this. Right. And this is the type of stuff that happens. So she never got her gun. And her stalker boyfriend, Stone Cold Steve Austin looking dude, right? He caught her in her driveway as she was pulling up in her house and stabbed her to death in her driveway in front of her own cameras. So her own cameras caught the footage of her being stabbed to death. And then he went to somebody else's house, he got himself a firearm. Now I want you to think about that. She couldn't get a firearm, but he was able to get a firearm, and then he committed suicide, right? With the firearm. Right? And it's like, so he has the firearm to harm himself or kill himself, but then she doesn't, even though she's trying to go through the process to protect his ass, or excuse me, her ass from him. Right? Like that's fucked up. Completely fucked up. But yet, this is what liberals and suburban white women and black people and black women, this is what they vote for. This is what they vote for. And again, and the thing is like, I'm not just going to single out black people when it comes to this idea of, well, since I can't do it in my state, you shouldn't be able to do it either. And there is a cancerous mentality among the left that spreads like wildfire when it comes to the Second Amendment. That is the mentality. That is the orientation. I can't do it, so you shouldn't be able to do it either. You know what I mean? And I just look at people like, yeah, okay. You know what I mean? Because I've had my interactions with old black people. You know what I mean? This is what I talked about when I talked about, the Nation of Islam and how a lot of them got felonies and whatnot. You know what I mean? Like, some of them will be incensed at the fact that, you would think that they support the shit, but some of them will be incensed at the fact, I'm saying on a personal level. I don't think it's a reflection of the Nation of Islam, but I'm just saying just on a personal level that you a young black man, you out here, you strapped up and you legal. You got your shit on you legally. Okay. And, because they did some crime back in 1973, it might have been some trumped up charges or something like that. And they went to jail and everything for more than a year. They're a felon. So they can never possess a firearm, legally for the rest of their life. And here you are, a young black man, and you haven't been caught up in the system yet. That, trust me, there's a lot of old black men that they feel some type of way about that. And you be sitting there thinking that they're going, yeah, young king. You know what I mean? You sitting there thinking they're going, see you as being empowered. No, no. Again, they don't like that whole aspect of you having anything that represents having more power than them. Respect your elders. That type of shit. They don't like that. So again, we go back to, not passing the torch on, to the next generation. And people, old black men want to hold the torch until, they die, until they're, in the grave. They want to hold the torch forever. I'm like, bro, pass that shit, man. You too old to if some shit goes down, you too old to do much of anything anyway. You know what I mean? But this is the mentality. These are the attitudes. So anyway, I just wanted to, throw that up there. I don't want to make this video long like the other one, but that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out.